Hey, we have back with us. We've got Iris Stevens. She's the coordinator for the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party. Iris, how are you this morning?
I'm just great.
I'm glad to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here.
So, I wanted to have you on. I wanted to kind of preview this District 21 primary between incumbent Senator John Cooper and State Representative Dan Sullivan. Now, first of all, just a little background. You followed the first round. The first time Senator Cooper was elected, he very much needed the
for
support.
him. We gave money. We knocked on doors. We wrote letters for him. We, did everything that we could to get him elected because we thought that he was going to be very, very conservative and that he would, number one thing, he was going to try to fight to stop this Obamacare in Arkansas because we knew what it was going to do financially to the state. We'd already done that study. So we were extraordinarily disappointed when he got down to Little Rock and started making decisions that were totally opposite of what he said he would do when he was running. Mm-hmm. And the number one, of course, was that he voted to continue the Obamacare and then came home and claimed that it was the best decision when actually he was working in conjunction with the governor who wanted this, So we've just been very, very disappointed that he has not upheld his promises, that he's voted with Democrats. I would say almost as much as he's voted with Republicans and for specific issues, So.
We actually have an audio clip. Joe, can you play this audio clip? This is just a montage of when John Cooper ran for office the first time. And Iris, actually, let me give you these headphones here. You can listen yourself. Go ahead, Joe, whenever you're ready.
First of all, I'll say I'm opposed to the private option. It is Obamacare in Arkansas, and Obamacare from the beginning to the end is an unworkable act. It is a gathering of power, and it will not provide the health care that we need. If we accept this, we are putting Arkansas on the hook for a couple of years. There is a short-term savings, but a couple of years down the road, there is a crossover of costs, and then it's going to be very expensive. Secondly, the idea that this will reduce the amount of cost that is unreimbursed by emergency rooms is also false, because statistics now are showing that that's just not the case, that those costs are also rising regardless of whether or not the private option is incorporated. This is the implementation of the health care exchanges in Arkansas, which is the very fiber of Obamacare. And it is a system that right now is bouncing along on square wheels. It is very expensive. It's going to get more expensive. Premiums are going up and copays are going up. And just this morning we looked at our copay and it was up tremendously.
Okay, so that's just one of the many clips that we have. Iris, your response to that. It's amazing to hear, right?
It takes me back a while, yes. And of course, conservatives would have voted for someone who was saying that because it looked like he'd done his study. Mm-hmm. It looked like he was well aware of what the problems were. So not only were we, sworn to support him, but that's why we were so taken aback when he got down there and he changed his total tune.
Yeah.
And then was very angry at the Tea Party when we said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What are you doing? You promised that you would do this. And he has been actually actively ugly to the Tea Party and, people in it.
Wasn't he responsible for filming sending a camera crew?
Yeah. Can I
take those off. Yeah.
He was yes, he was. We came in one evening and Joe and Brenda were there from Conduit. And in walks this guy with the camera. And so I thought, okay. And I went back there, and I actually knew the guy. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, I'm here to film your meeting. And he said, is that okay? And I said, yeah, we don't have anything to hide. And I said, where's this coming from? And Ray Hackworth, who is, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be real ugly and say the word lapdog for Senator Cooper, came in and he said, well,
You just take them off.
He said, the governor wants this tape. He wants the film. And I thought, the governor wants a film of our Tea Party meeting? John Cooper had been invited to that meeting.
Yeah.
We always invite our legislators, let them come and talk about things, issues, but he wasn't there that night, I don't think. But anyway, so they went ahead and filmed it, and I said, I really wanted to know why the governor would want to be filming. So I called down there, and they said, oh, she don't give that information out. And I said, yeah, I think you should. So I filed an FOI on the governor's office to find out what had happened. Lo and behold, when it all came down, John Cooper, through Ray Hackworth and Jim Hendren, had decided to film our Tea Party.
Wow.
Because they wanted to know what we were saying, what horrible things. All they had to do was ask.
Yeah.
We didn't hide anything. And I contacted Senator Hendren. He was as nice as he could be. He said, you're right, it was stupid. I apologize. And he just continued to apologize. He said, I'm sorry. It just seemed like it was one of those, it seemed like a good idea at the time. And he said, it was stupid. We should have contacted you and all this. He said, but the other person was John Cooper who had done it. And when I called Senator Cooper, I said, what's up? I said, you were actually invited. He was the ugliest I have ever had anybody talk to me. And because I have taken outspoken positions, I have ugly people talk to me every once in a while. It was astounding how ugly he was about something that all he had to do was be upfront with.
So the reason so you see why we're doing this segment, folks. The context here. This has been, and I can even say, Senator Cooper is welcome on this program, but he used to come on this program a lot, a whole lot, and that doesn't really happen anymore because of this falling out, because of being elected, saying you're going to do one thing and then not doing it. So I wanted to hash all that out, especially the video, which is fascinating to me. That back during the day, the establishment was very concerned about the arguments of those who were on the right. They were concerned about the influence that the information getting out there that the Republicans weren't actually implementing the platform or weren't actually doing what they're going to do. And we've seen how that's worked out. I mean, largely because of Senator Cooper. The expansion of Medicaid is here.
Exactly.
And it's not going anywhere.
And it's costing us hundreds of millions of dollars.
And that actually, I think, kind of goes into this next point, which is where we can say, look at all 7 tax increases that Senator Cooper voted for during the last legislative session. I maintain those tax increases are there because we can't pay for what Senator Cooper failed to kill in the first place.
They have to have more and more money, and they will hide it any way possible because this program sucks every available nickel out of it. And it's not, because I want to qualify this, it's not that we don't want people to have health care, but there are ways to do things that are economically responsible, and then there's the Arkansas Obamacare way to do things, which doesn't really help anybody. And if I have just pulled down last night an October 2019 evaluation of our Obamacare, our programs in Arkansas, and it is devastating in what it says about the problems with it and how much it's going to cost us. And this has been the problem all along. This is not a conservative program. Conservative programs actually help. These kind of programs cause more damage in the long run. Look at California.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you look at Blue Cross Blue Shield. You said it's not helping. It's very much helping them. I mean,
exactly.
It's a tax guaranteed percentage of profit in the law for them.
Do people understand that what's happening with this is we're not just paying for people to go to the doctor. What we do is we pay $600 and something a month for every person who's established on this program and that goes straight to the insurance companies, whether people go to the doctors or not, whether they really want to be a part of the program or not.
Yeah. Okay. So so I wanted to hash that out. That is certainly, from a conservative standpoint, a strike against it. But for those of us who were not around in 2014 or weren't paying attention, it may not mean as much that Senator Cooper broke the promise. Unfortunately for him, though, there are multiple examples just in the last couple of months at the beginning of the year where he did not vote in a conservative way, right?
Absolutely. And a couple of those are going to make a lot of people really angry. I think one of them is the Stand Your Ground program where
the Stand Your Ground law, yeah.
The Stand
he
Your
was
Ground
the
law,
sole Republican vote that killed that.
Killed it in committee. So, and that was a program that was popular across Arkansas. There was no excuse for that. Absolutely no excuse for that vote.
Well, you have the radical group Moms Demand Action.
which is backed by George Soros. I don't know if people know that. That's one of his little programs that he contributes money to is Moms Demand Action. Makes them look a little less like moms, doesn't it? When you know that they're backed by George Soros.
Let's see here. What about, let's see, HB 1684. This allowed non-citizen or DACA students to attend Arkansas State. He voted for that, right?
He voted for that, and that's a problem. I know a lot of people say, well, it's not fair to do this. Life is not fair. People who come into this country illegally create a lot of problems, and this has been that program. DACA was created by an executive order, essentially by Obama. It was never pushed through legislatively legal, and it's actually working its way through the court system now, and they may strike it down. So Arkansas, with John Cooper's help, decides that these students should be able to go to school on state tuition, whereas normally they would go out-of-state tuition. So what we did is we're allowing these students who are not here legally to go to school on in-state tuition, where we're allowing legal residents of the United States, say from Missouri, from Oklahoma, whatever, they have to pay out-of-state tuition.
Yeah.
So we're putting not legal residents above legal residents.
Yeah.
And that's offensive to me.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, I mean, it's just kind of denying the problem that we have.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the thing that it is
diminishing it.
I am all for education. I taught school for 30 plus years.
Yes.
But there are legal ways to do things, and there are ways that are not going to better our situation here.
Well, no, I mean, we're talking about a Republican primary in Craighead County,
Yes.
Arkansas. You're talking about, I believe Craighead County even went for Ted Cruz.
Yes.
So you have in a lot of Trump supporters too. But I mean, so at this point, I think everybody in a Republican primary voting is very conservative, I think, to say that.
I would think so, yeah.
You know what I mean? And those are the ones that are going to turn up, and I don't think they're going to like,
We're going to get every vote that's important. We're going to get all this information out, because what is important in a representative or a senator is having principles. And principles say you don't say, I'm going to do this, and then you turn around and do something else. Number
Exactly.
one, you really ought to have the discernment to be able to make wise decisions, but you certainly don't then turn around and say to your supporters, I don't care what you think. My buddies are in Little Rock, and that's who I'm going to work with.
Yeah. Here's another one. Senator Cooper, one of only 2 senators who voted no on HB 1626. That was a bill that would have allowed schools to offer a voluntary Bible class to students, meaning an elective, not a
Yes,
part of the
it'll be
curriculum.
and they have to ask for it.
Yeah.
It's not something the school offers unless the students
Right,
ask for it. I read the bill. It passes constitutional muster, because that has been taken care of through the courts, because there have been a lot of schools who said, we want to do this. And so it wound its way through the courts, and this one passes constitutional muster. And when I attended one of his town hall meetings, the question was asked, why did you not support this? You were a Baptist minister. And he turned the question into, why are we not teaching religion in schools? And I was sitting there going, no, that's not the question. This is a Bible class. I taught English. The foundation of our literature, art, and law in Western civilization goes back to the Bible.
Yes.
If you don't know it, you are crippling yourself. And that's all this was, to teach them. I had students, just a very, very brief example. I had students, we studied a book at one point where the main character was fascinated. They weren't allowed to read. It was Fahrenheit 451.
Right.
And he went through the Beatitudes. We know them as Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit.
Yep.
And so I started that, and I said, how many of y'all recognize this? Now, I taught in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I went to church with some of these students. I knew them, which they did not know. Well, that was a focal point of the book, and they did not know where that came from. Shakespeare is replete with biblical references that mean things. It would be as if you did not know what Herculean task meant, because you didn't know your mythology and that Hercules was extremely strong. It needs to be taught. People need to have a knowledge of this if you're going to go to college. And he voted against it.
Why did he vote against it, though?
I have no idea.
I listened to his explanation, and it didn't make any sense to me at all.
I suspect the governor didn't want it.
Really?
That's just pure opinion. Because it seems like a lot of the votes that Senator Cooper takes that are against what we want are also aligned with what the governor
Well,
does
and the
or does
governor,
not
I mean,
want.
to your point, again, it's speculation, but we do know it is a fact that Asa has said, according to the Gazette, he was quoted as saying he's not going to get in, he doesn't know what primaries he's going to get involved in, but he does have his eye up on this one. He's going to endorse Senator Cooper over Dan Sullivan. And the thing about that is I don't even know when all the China gate, when all that is settled, I don't even know if John's going to want Ace's endorsement, quite frankly. Just because it's only a matter of time before there's more media that take a look at what's going on with
Well, I've got
the
a
law
hint
firm.
for people. Asa doesn't vote in Craighead County, and neither do the Little Rock legislators. They don't vote in Craighead County.
Or the Little Rock PACs either.
Exactly. We vote in Craighead County, and we're going to make this information available to everybody.
Yeah.
This is wrong. When you promise something to people, you stick to it.
I think.
And I don't believe Senator Cooper has done that.
No, I mean, I think that's a fair point to make. And this is going to be, I think it's also kind of going to get, let me just say this, because this is such a stark contrast, because we're going over John Cooper's voting record.
Yes.
If you go over Dan's voting record, it's very, 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 very good.
Exactly.
For
He
the
does what he said
platform.
he would do.
Right.
What he promised.
So, when you are that squarely beaten in a primary race, in a Republican primary, I think John Cooper has two options politically. He's got to find a way to get Democrats to vote in a Republican primary, which is going to be difficult in and of itself because the Democrats are going to be picking who they want to represent themselves for president.
Exactly.
And you can't do both. And the only other option is to go very, very negative.
We're seeing that already.
Yeah.
John Cooper does not have a problem with going negative. I brought him, we haven't got time to get into him today, but I brought a number of letters to the editor where he just excoriated people who did not agree with him. I mean, from Conduit to me to a Tea Party in general to the Tea Party of Arkansas. Very, very hateful things. So he has no problem at all going negative.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it's the very people. I mean, I had a conversation with him one time a couple years ago. This was after he was voting. I texted him because not long after he won here, okay, he went over to help in the Scott Flippo race, defeating John Burris, who was a big government guy. Scott Flippo, for the most part, has remained conservative. Everybody has a vote here or there, it seems, but has remained,
what he said he would be.
What he said he would be. And I just thought it was interesting when it came down for these votes, they were trying to stop the funding. Cooper was lockstep with the establishment, and the very guy he campaigned for, was still standing strong. And so I was just kind of asking, like, why did you even campaign for him? I mean, you know what I mean? And just kind of pointing out the hypocrisy. And then, of course, he said, I have a scorched earth policy and blah, 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 which I just tried to tell him, look, I haven't changed.
Exactly.
You've changed. Ira Stevens hasn't changed. The values of the Republican Party haven't changed. The Tea Party hasn't changed.
Exactly.
He's the one that's changed.
Exactly.
There's a reason the Craighead County Republican Party is voting 2/3 majority for the Republican Party platform, because they know Senator Cooper hasn't been voting that way.
Absolutely.
And so his own county committee has turned against him. I mean, there's pockets of support in there, but I mean, for the most part,
overall, yes, it has. Yeah. And his response to that has been mind-boggling. When he calls when he says that we can't support political parties.
Yeah.
And then he also says that, asking your senator or representative to adhere to the platform is the equivalent of what the old Soviet Union did.
Compared to the
essentially
Soviet
calling
Union.
us communists. And you're thinking, this is just, wow.
Do you think that there will be a debate between Representative Sullivan and Senator
Supposedly there will be one in January. I think
okay, good. That'll be
Dan
helpful.
Sullivan has put out that, but of course that was one of the questions, why are we not doing a debate instead of just, and so Dan Sullivan had tried to get set up with a debate, and I think Cooper has agreed to one.
Okay, good.
They may be going to political animals.
Okay. Well, that'll be, I mean, there's been many fair debates done in that forum.
Right.
So, Ira Stevens, it's always great to talk to you.
Thank you. It's great
Thank you
to be
so
here.
much. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Back in a moment.